we had a great period there, you know. I took her to get a license and a passport. First, we went for her social security card, and then we took that to the DMV, and then we mailed all of that to the government for a passport. It was like the triple crown of identifications. Jenny was wildly identifiable, and one night she was heading back from my apartment to hers, and she stops. And I said, "What?" And she says, "I think that we should live together." And I said, No, I really don't think that's a good idea. You know, I've just decided, you know, as a principle, I'm not going to get married or live with someone. It's not personal. And she said, "Well, unless we live together, I just don't think it's going to work out because we just don't see each other enough, and I don't think that we stand a chance." That's how I feel. So we moved in together. And one day Jenny gets an invitation to the wedding of one of her friends, and she invites me to come along, and I said, "Oh, no thanks." That doesn't go over so well. She says, "Why?" And I said, "Well, as you know, I don't believe in marriage, and so I don't buy into the flamboyant pageantry that goes into celebrating it." She said, "Well, what do you believe in?" I said, "I don't know." She said, "Well, if you don't believe in anything, how can you not believe in marriage?" And I said, "Well, first of all, it just doesn't seem necessary. I mean, marriage is an archaic institution invented in the Middle Ages based on exchanging property. I don't want to be a part of that. Second of all, I don't even think we have a common cultural understanding of what marriage even is. I mean, one of me and Andy's friends was about to get engaged, and we were skeptical, and we said, "Are you sure this is the person you want to be with for the rest of your life?" And he goes, "Yeah, I think so." And we said, "Well, what if she gets in a car accident and she's disfigured? Would you stay with her then?" And he said, "Maybe." That is not an acceptable answer. Third of all, if I'm so in love, why does it need to be written into a government contract? And I'm not one of these, like, I don't want government up in my business kind of people. I think the government does a nice job delivering the mail and suggesting I don't eat poison. But I just don't understand why they need to be involved in my personal relationship. Then finally, if marriage is religious, shouldn't I believe in the religion? I've been to more weddings than my friends where the people on the altar don't believe in the religion of the church they've invited us to. Some of them even go to classes with the priest in advance to more elaborately lie about believing in a religion they don't believe in, just to have a wedding in a fancy building. That is insane! That's how I feel! So I explained this to Jenny. And Jenny says, "Well, if you ever did want to get married, I would marry you." And I said, "Why? Aren't you listening to any of this?" And Jenny says, "That's how I feel." At this point, it was 5 a.m. We'd been arguing all night, and we hadn't slept. I had to catch a flight at 6:20 a.m. out of Newark Airport to Los Angeles for a show I was doing that night. At this point, I'm overtired, and I'm angry, and I'm late. I'm stuffing my things in my roller suitcase, and I walk out of our apartment. It's 5 a.m., that part of the morning before the Earth even exists, before they programmed the Matrix or whatever. You walk out of your apartment, part of the road isn't even there. There's a guy with a laptop going, "We need a road stat. What's the code for building, tank?" You know, you get to the airport, the news hasn't even started yet. It's just an anchor looking around like, "What are you up to?" And I get to the kiosk, and I print up my ticket, and I bring it to the security lady, and she looks at it, and she goes, "Well, that ain't your gate." Like, I guess they changed the gate, but the way she said it was as though I had participated in the decision to change the gate. I was like, I was not involved in this process. I wasn't even CC'd. Like, as though I had gone to the kiosk and been like, "B-22, like hell, I'm flying out of B-22, and then I'd Photoshop my own ticket, printed it up, and been like, this is where I'm going. You know, I'm not that aggressive as a traveler, so I was like, well, where is this gate? She goes, it's in another terminal. You gotta take a tram. And she points to the tram, and I start walking my roller suitcase, and I hear her say, and you better run. Like, I guess I was late at that point, so I start running, and the roller suitcase does not enjoy running. The roller suitcase is like, I don't want to run. I have wheels. And I was like, I don't want to run either, but this is what we have to do. I tell you what, when we get to the hotel, I'll walk in circles for a few hours, and I get to the tram, and it has that feature where it says how many minutes before the next tram arrives, and it says 0 minutes. I was like, perfect. That's exactly how long I wanted to wait. But the tram's riding away. I was like, that's -1 minute! And then it says 10 minutes, and I'm experiencing that psychological downward spiral, like, oh, great, I'm gonna miss my flight, and then I'm gonna miss every flight from now on, and then I'm gonna miss my family reunion, and then I'm not gonna have a family, and then I'm gonna be a crack whore. And it's like, all of a sudden, I'm a crack whore, but it's just because I missed this one flight, and I can feel the cancer forming in my body in real time. I get on the next tram 10 minutes later, and I run to the gate, and I'm sweaty, and I'm out of breath, but I'm on time. And I'm so relieved that I sit down in the chair at the gate and I fall asleep. And I wake up to the sound of the doors shutting. I jump up and the door's closed and I am on the sad side of the door. The happy side has an airplane and a pilot. The sad side is me and the Cinnabon lady. Normally, I'd be very excited if it were just me and the Cinnabon lady. I'm a big fan of pastries the size of a baby that have enough calories for a year. I think that's an effective use of time, but in this instance, I needed someone who could communicate with the people on the plane, and the Cinnabon lady is not very well connected in the airline community. I was like, do you know these people? She was like, all I know is the white stuff goes on in the Cinnabon. I ran up to the giant glass window. I started pounding on the window like in a romantic comedy. I was like, Drew Barrymore's character, come back. She didn't come back. I missed my flight. I got on the next one. They could get me on. It was a stopover in Texas. You know how I feel about Texas. And I get to Los Angeles late that night. I'd missed my show. I'd never missed one of my shows before. I'm so angry. And Jenny's calling me, but I'm not picking up the phone because I'm blaming this entire day on her. I get back to my friend Andy's house, and I said, Andy, this relationship is messing up my entire life. And Andy goes, you're right. I go, I know. I'm right. He goes, yeah, you're right. I go, I know. I'm right. I got to tell her about this in the morning. And I drive out of Andy's small road, and I'm T-boned. That's the culinary way of describing it. In 1.5 seconds, I'm spun around. I think I'm dead. No, wait, I'm paralyzed. And then I hear nothing. Then I hear the other car skid out and drive away. "20 minutes later, I'm sitting on the curb. At this point, the police have arrived, as well as my friend Andy, and that's when I start crying. You know how when you drop a baby on the ground, it doesn't start crying right away because it doesn't understand the concept of dropping a baby on the ground until it sees your face. And then it's like, oh, I guess I should be doing something that matches that. I'm crying because I'm looking at my totaled car in front of me and realizing that in that moment, I might have ceased to exist. Like I said earlier, I don't really believe in anything, so in my mind, that would have been the end of all things I'd experienced in my life. Every kiss or failed kiss or scrambler ride would have come to a conclusion. And the officer comes over and he says, what happened? And I said, I got hit by this car, and then I heard nothing, and I heard the other car skid out and drive away. The officer points over to the light. The other car has made a right turn at the light and veered into this very skinny tree. I can't help but think, that's karma. That's a hit and run and hit. And then the officer puts this form in my face, and he goes, sign this. And I said, well, what does it mean? He goes, it means you're okay and that we can leave. I was really shaken up. I was like, I don't know if I'm okay. And he goes, just sign it. Which is a very unattractive quality when someone just repeats a command that you've just said no to, and it's unattractive but very effective, you know. I signed it. And Andy takes me to the hospital just as a precaution, but we have to wait 2 hours because the other driver had beat us there. Eventually, we're with the doctor, and Andy says to him, he goes, well, was the other guy drunk? And the doctor says, well, I can't answer that. And Andy says, was he? He uses the technique we had learned earlier. And it works, you know. The doctor says, well, he's heading to jail now. And Andy and I flash each other a look like the Hardy Boys, like case closed. A few hours later, we're back at Andy's house. It's probably around 3:30 in the morning, and I have one of these epiphanies people sometimes have when they have near-death experiences. I say, I need to call Jenny and tell her that we need to get married. And Andy says, Mike, sleep on it. And I said, no, this makes perfect sense. And I pick up my phone, I dial her number, and he puts his hand over the phone, and he says, Mike, sleep on it. He saves me.